Hey guys, before we start this interview, I just want to say that it's definitely going to be more than adequate.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 311 Odyssey podcast. I'm your co host, B Love. I'm with my boy Arc Sensor. We got J2 Tone next to me. She's the 311 archivalist. And we have a very special guest today, none other,
Oh
the
shucks.
renowned sixth member of 311, Scotch Ralston.
Woo!
Thank you,
Welcome
thank
to the
you, thank you.
podcast, buddy.
Thank you
Woo!
so much.
Woo! Definitely. Definitely indeed. Welcome.
So, where are you right now? What's the setting?
Well, here we are in Los Angeles, California at the Forum. We're doing the K-Rock Acoustic Christmas.
Woo! All right. Well, we
But yeah, we're doing
appreciate you.
K-Rock Acoustic Christmas. The last minute notice, the Chili Peppers dropped out, and
Ah,
so we got to pick up the slack, and here we are,
that's cool.
off the
Those are tough
couch
shoes
into
to
the
fill, but
mix.
you guys got it.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of the busy day and the chaotic morning you've had there, and I'm glad it all worked out for you.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be good.
Very, very good. It always is. It always is.
Mm,
So, well, you
Right.
you hear the
Go
thing.
ahead.
You hear the things the most of the people might miss. Or I know there's some diehards in the front that catch it all, but
yeah, I'm a perfectionist these days, so it's hard because every single show I'm like, oh, if I just would have done this one thing, it would have been perfect. But that's the one thing I didn't do that time.
yeah. Well, speaking of learning, back when you were a young Scotch, what do you attribute to getting into sound engineering and that side of music?
First of all, what is this back when I was young thing? Come on, I still got it.
Oh,
Oh,
I
for
I
mean,
sure.
I just
For
meant
sure.
young little high schooler. You know
no, I
that age.
understand.
Yeah,
I'll let it slide this
my
time.
back hurts too, man. My back hurts too.
Well, I don't know how this all got started. Happened a long time ago, and my grandfather gave me a little cassette recorder, and I started recording members of my family and random things that happened around the house. And the batteries started to die on the recorder. And when I played it back after fresh batteries, it was a different speed. And then I learned about
Oh,
playing different speeds. And then I would get two recorders and start one at a different time in the other, and then three. And then the next thing
nice.
you know, it turned into a lifetime.
Wow.
Still
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining
Yeah.
and time consuming and fulfilling and rewarding. And why didn't I listen to my dad and be a bank teller?
There you go.
Just kidding, Dad. I don't know. It just happened, man. You read the liner notes on the back of your favorite records and you think, someone got paid to do that.
Hmm.
I want to be that guy.
Nice. The guy in the chair.
So, yeah, in all paths in that at that time always led to California. So off I went into the sunset, and it was July. Ding ding.
Wow. Zinger.
Booyah.
And
So take us into the first time you heard 311 and then meeting them.
Yeah, that was part of the process that happened way back when I was young in the day.
Oh,
I was working at this studio in Hollywood called Cherokee, and I was kind of a bit younger than everyone around me because I had decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. And so I was working on a Yes record with Eddie Offord, and one day he just came in out of the blue and he said, "Oh man, you got to hear this, man." He had this cassette and he put it in, and I was like, "That is the weirdest music I've ever heard." And then after he stopped playing, I didn't think about it. Then 2 days later, I was like, "Man, can you play that music again? That was different." He played it again. I was like, "God, this is kind of cool." He's like, "Yeah, I think these guys have something. Yeah, I think they have something." So at one point, sometime soon after that, he invited them out to do a demo of 3 songs. I think it was "Do You Right," "Visit," and maybe something else. And it was so good. I mean, I that's the only time I've actually ever injured myself listening to music was listening to that demo. I was like, these guys are gonna the world.
nice.
And they flew out, and we did the demo at Cherokee, and it was just a natural thing to hang out with those guys. We were both from the Midwest and younger than most of the people around us, and we just formed a little bond. We didn't really know that at the time, but it was such a good experience that we just kept wanting to relive it over and over.
Was it Feel So Good? Was that the song?
Feels so good.
You guys know all the history. I just
You
turn
should
the
know this.
knobs.
I'm guessing it was My Stony Baby, but I could be wrong.
All I know, I hate to bring this story
Anyway.
up, but one funny little tidbit about that time was that I wanted to become, you know, a world-renowned engineer and sound man. And Eddie was well established and respected in the business. And finally, so I was his right-hand man, and I looked at everything he was doing. I did everything. And at one point, after I'd done a couple albums with me, he's like, okay, this guy's trustworthy. And so we had 24 tracks to work with on an analog tape machine. And there was a toms track where you only hit the toms one time in the whole song. So we could use that to record other things on that track except for the part where the toms were. So he was like, okay, I'm going to go get some coffee. You erase everything on this track, but don't forget to not erase the toms. So we went in to record, and Chad and I started talking and laughing. And next thing I know, the song was over. And I was like, oh no, I completely just erased the toms.
Oh no.
So if you listen to the demo, there's no toms.
Oh my gosh.
Have to bust out the archive.
And you didn't get fired. That's
I didn't
great.
get fired. I got hired. They were like,
We didn't
hey,
like the
this guy
toms.
is such a stoner. He erased the toms. You're in.
Luckily, it was just one Tom, right?
Well, he might have done a little flam, so it was actually two toms, I think, technically. But that's what started it all, and then they ended up working with Eddie on their first album, and I was working with Eddie a lot at the time, so we did that one together. And I can still remember that. And then it just kind of went on and on from there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, on Grassroots, Eddie had a little problem adjusting to the home studio style because he had been working in big name studios his whole life, and they've always been very good with their recording budgets, and they thought, hey, let's take that budget and make it at home so we can just take our time and not have to pay a big daily rate.
Right.
And so Eddie got behind this weird little console and all this digital stuff, and he's like, I don't like this. I'm out of here. So he rolled out, and they were like, who do we know? Hey, Scotch, you want to finish Grassroots? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I didn't mix that. I can't take credit for that little janky, funny sound that it turned out to be, but I did record it. So
Yeah.
now we're up through Grassroots so far.
I was like 94 ish.
Mhm.
Yeah. 94.
Sorry, I'm talking so much.
No.
Oh, no
So
problem.
were you
That's what we're here to
so
do.
when did you start? Sorry, when did you start touring with them for shows?
So that all occurred in '94 as well. So we finished Grassroots, and they went off to mix it. I didn't hear it, and then I ended up working at a private studio with Barbra Streisand, and all we did was just edit vocals all day long.
Wow.
And I was just really not, at that time, wasn't very into it. I wanted to be creative and do rock albums. I thought it was going to be great, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know how he got my number because I had moved somewhere else, and back then you didn't have a phone that followed you around. And one day my phone just rang, and I was like, hello? And Chad was like, hey, man, do you want to go on tour? And I was like, yeah, yes. So meet us at the Roxy on Thursday night. Okay, see you then, clunk. And I started walking away, and I'm like, I wonder what going on tour means.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll
He
meet
knows
him on
now.
Thursday night at the Roxy. So as I was driving to the Roxy, I realized, what am I going to do with my car?
Ah.
So I sold my car at a gas station for $75.
No
Oh my
way.
gosh.
$75.
What?
A Buick Skyhawk, man. It was a good car.
Dang.
Oh, I know that car.
Yeah, man. And so I met him at the Roxy. We got on the bus, and our first show was in Miami.
Oh,
So So I got on the bus, and by the time we got to Miami, I had no idea. I mean, that was the bong days. Sorry, mom. But like, so there was like 3 days of driving and bong puffing, and by the time I rolled out of that bus in Florida, I was just it was like a movie. I literally fell out of the stairs, and I was like, wow. And our first show was like a little soundboard that had wheels on it, and every time the crowd got excited, the soundboard would slide across the floor, and I'd have to go mix over there. And then another song would happen, and it would slide over there, and then I'd go mix over there, and I was like, this is going to be a long tour.
That's preparation for the cruise.
Yeah, that was a cruise show. And but then they didn't have much of a market in Florida, so the show was kind of small, and I was like, oh, well, it'll get better. It did.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So,
that was the start of the touring, was 94, yeah.
how did Barbara take the news that you were leaving her without a vocal engineer?
You know what? She probably didn't. I don't even think she noticed. They were too busy arranging the curtains and the drapes and moving the furniture. I already said furniture, but I don't think they noticed. Yeah.
So had you seen 311 live before working with them, or just was it the?
No, but I did know that they were the only band that, like I had said, I'd actually injured myself listening to one time. I had a day off, and I put that album on, put music on, and I was jumping around my house, and I jumped on my coffee table, and my coffee table completely collapsed.
Oh,
no.
And I just went bluey, and I was like, this must be good. Say what? Huh?
Cadence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look, we got a canine suite.
A9 suite?
Yeah, they got to make sure that
hey,
we're not,
puppers.
harboring
Wow.
fugitive web hosts. But anyway,
Cool.
Whose K9 was that?
I don't know.
Oh, all right. Give me your pup.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. There's, doing it for the safety of everybody.
Right.
Of course.
Get him a Red Bull.
So,
I think that dog just ate my sandwich.
uh-oh.
That's not a real bomb dog. It's a sandwich. Yeah, that's a great way to get a sandwich. Hey, bomb dog. Here you go, boss. Here's a new sandwich. Okay, we're back. We're back to the cast here.
All right.
Yeah.
Where were we again?
I guess
94?
we're moving along to Blue Album times, I suppose.
The Blue album.
Yeah, that comes out. You're working with Ron Saint, and
yeah. So
how did that compare with working with Eddie previously, and then just in terms of how it felt?
it was a great change. Ron was a lot more methodical in his approach to the audio, but also a lot more animated in his demeanor towards the band. And Eddie was kind of like, you guys create something and I'll kind of enhance it and polish it. And Saint was a little more, I wouldn't say opinionated, but like he always was kind of nudging them in a certain little direction that he felt was going to be good for them. And he kind of brought out, he wanted to emphasize the energetic aspect of their live show and just of them gelling together, whereas previously we would do things a little bit separately, maybe record some drums and bass and then add some guitars later. And Saint's approach was more like, let's all just get in one room and bang it out. And so that was the one album that we did in their catalog, completely, kind of, I would say, almost live, with them all in one room, and it was a great experience. We did it at NRG, and that was when they had just established themselves as a studio. So we had a pool table and a little lounge. We thought we conquered the world on that one, and that was a good experience. I remember on that one, we were trying to figure out the sequence of which songs to go, where on the record, and everyone was talking about like, oh, what's going to be the best song on here. And I was pointing to some songs, and Nick walked by. He's like, "You don't already know?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Obviously it's Down." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even think of that." I was, I don't even know. I thought it was like, some, I don't even know what I thought, but I was like, what, down? Do you think that's gonna be single? He's like, so obviously he knows something.
He called it. So did
But it
the
was that was great.
all in one room approach? Do you think that translated or somehow parlayed into getting into the recording of the live album, or was it just time for a live album at that point? That influence, you know.
Well, one little aspect of that is that there's a magic ingredient in recording that you can't explain and you can't really hear, but it's there. It's inspiration. And somehow inspiration gets encoded in these waveforms that they create and translates to the listener. So when someone's making something, if they're inspired by it, that somehow comes through the music and hits you in that way. If someone's just doing something to do something, then you just change the channel.
Hmm.
And that was one thing about that album, I think, that was captured, and what made it kind of so successful was at the time they were really inspired and by their previous success, and they had a good grassroots fan base.
Yeah.
But at the time, so they had just had a big hit, the Blue Album and everything, and everyone was like, well, you need to keep going with this. And they're like, well, we don't have any material. And they're like, well, how did you get this far? And they were like, I think with our live shows. So they were like, well, let's just do a live album and capture some of that energy in the interim. So that's what we did.
Cool.
And that was actually kind of hazy. That was when doing a live recording or whatever was a big deal. So now it's just kind of like you record every show.
Hmm.
But
That was a good answer.
good artwork.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
going back to working with Saint, did he ever take you on his plane?
Yeah, we did take a plane ride, and we were going around LA looking down at cool stuff, and I was like having the time of my life. I was in the back seat, and I looked over and I looked up, and Nick was asleep. He fell asleep.
Well,
Nick was on the
I
plane
was
too.
like,
Who else?
yeah, it was just me, Nick, and Saint.
oh man.
And I was like, man, that's kind of weird. And then later on, he was like, yeah, I kind of got a little bit airsick, and I wasn't sure what to do, so I kind of just forced myself to like into a slumber. But we rode with Saint. I felt totally secure the whole time. I really did, Saint. And it inspired me to get my pilot's license, which I subsequently did.
Oh, cool.
Oh, no way. Where did you guys
Yeah.
fly out?
Flying out of Burbank, which is like flying in a bird cage. There's a jet here and a helicopter there, and no fly list here, and it's really not very easy.
Yeah.
And to those of you who are interested in getting your license, do it in Kansas.
Do it in Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Words to the wise.
Lots of sense.
This is ginger beer. There's no alcohol in this. Ginger beer.
I expected you to have a Scotch with you.
You know what? Me too. I'm sorry to let you guys down.
How did you get the nickname?
That happened during the Blue album. Ron Saint had this big bottle of this Blue Label Scotch, and he just kept saying, as soon as we feel like we really rock this, we're going to drink this. And it just kept staring at us, so we just kind of started sipping it when he wasn't looking. And then after a while, after a few scotches, like saying Scotch, and Scotch becomes kind of a little bit borderline. Yeah, the clarity gets lost there.
Yeah.
Pass me a Scotch. Anyway, at some point, not sure I remember that moment because it was during a Blue Label. It was a Blue Label moment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why it was the Blue Album.
Maybe.
Boom,
so.
son.
There it is.
Ha, the mystery has been decoded.
It all comes around, man.
My mind's even blown. But that's why they self-titled that. They felt like we've arrived. This defines us. It's just us, 311.
Yeah.
Blue.
Amazing. That is great. So as the Blue Album is blowing up, I mean, we're talking about MTV radio play, interviews, stadiums almost. Talk about that.
Man, so we had a show.
Through
We've been doing a tour, and then we were touring the grassroots, and then we had a show in Kansas City. And then on the way to Kansas City, somebody called, and they're like, "Well, we got to change venues." And they were just like, "Oh, okay, just wherever, just tell the bus driver where to park." So we pulled up and we walked into Sandstone Amphitheater, which was, I think, I don't know the capacity, but for us, it was like, wow. And Down was blowing up on the radio. And when we came on stage at Sandstone in Kansas City, it was like hair chilling. Like my hair was standing on end. And I was just like, wow, this is really something. And I found the recording of that show the other day, and even the band, even the guys were surprised when they came out with their mics. They were just like, oh, okay. So we have to rock all of you people? Yeah, we can do this, sure.
Dang.
And they did. But then, no, then after that, it was like we were going to go do another show, and they're like, no, you got to do this show like somewhere else. And we got on a private jet and did a show, and we had like a drum kit in between, like we were sitting on a drum kit in the jet, and we had to do these radio shows because it was a big deal. And then it got pretty jumbly after then. We just played bigger shows, and that was a wild year and a good year to be a 311 fan.
So you're going from these roll around sound mixing boards to big amphitheaters. What was that like? Was that a huge learning curve?
Yeah, it kind of was, because we had like real sound systems, and you could actually hear what you were doing. We'd been playing clubs where like you could just make a big noise and everyone would have a drink and it was great. And now you're like, well, oh, hey, wait a minute. Pay attention here. And that was back in the analog days. So it was just nice to actually be on real equipment and have people that were like really paying attention and being expected to do good, because it kind of brought out my best as a sound guy.
Right.
And also just having all these people that want to be entertained, and you're like, it's my job to entertain these people. Well, not entertain, but kind of a translator in a way. So they make a noise on stage and it goes through all my stuff, and I put it in the speakers for listeners to hear. And so I got to, bring my A game because they were bringing theirs, and the expectations were high. So we had to deliver, and we did it.
Damn right.
It's got to be so wild to go from like a club speaker to one of those huge stage speaker arrays. I mean,
yeah, there were times. Yeah, there were times we were just like, is this really happening? Because we were just playing some club in like Norfolk, Virginia, and now we're in this outdoor amphitheater, beautiful, just big lighting. Well, they still hadn't had anything but par cans on the lights back then, but it was a really great transition. I mean, nobody was complaining at all. And we got a better bus, and we got better food. I mean, we were splitting a deli tray on the grassroots tour. Like whoever got the deli tray first was the winner.
Oh,
it was like, and then we had like proper food and beverages, and it was like a real, hey, these guys are like rock stars.
Wow.
Great times.
Start to see the
That's
benefits
awesome.
a little bit, yeah.
Ugh. All right, what's next, J2?
Now, this may be a stretch of the memory. I just had them listen to it. I found an auto recording from Pittsburgh in '95, and it seems that SA left before the encore. Do you remember this at all?
No, but
I have an audio recording, and SA left. So Nick's like, Adam, get out here. And Adam came out and did feel so good.
No way. Are you sure?
Yeah, I have the recording. I proved it to them too.
Calls him out by name, and they get down. Sans
Dude,
essay.
That is awesome. I wish I remembered that one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I'm like, that's so specific. But
man, now that's nuts. Well, I guess if you're gonna, I wonder where Essay went.
That's
I
what we
know,
were.
that's what I was wondering.
That's what we all said. That's the mystery.
You're like, what happened there?
Hmm.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, I have to say it was a bathroom break.
Man, I wish they had video on that one. That's awesome. I
Yeah,
can't believe I don't remember that, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff to remember, you know?
yeah.
That's great. Send me the audio for that.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure you get that.
Yeah.
The link to that.
Well,
So
we did. I don't really remember what the Blue album was. What 90? That's 96 or
it
95?
came out in
95.
'95.
95.
Yeah. Yeah, we toured that one for a long time, and then time for the big follow up. Sister.
Yeah, talk about transistor, man.
So we just relied on what we knew and went back to NRG, but they had just built a new room because they were so in demand. So we were the first clients in their new room. And that was kind of fun. But this was a time for the band when there were high expectations, but at the same time they felt like they wanted to come with something that they really were inspired by. So they had so many ideas and they seemed to connect to all of the ideas. And so basically we just kind of said yes to everything. And I think it was in a way almost experimental for them because and this is what they always did. They always felt like, well, we don't want someone else to dictate what kind of music we're going to write. We want to be eclectic and just come with our
That's what we
style.
feel, yeah.
And I think people, obviously were expecting like a high energy rock album.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, but what they came with was just something that was a giant palette of colors and no real rules and regs on it. And
And a
seemed
lot of
to
songs.
a lot of songs.
All
I
of the
mean, we
songs.
wanted to give people their money's worth, and the label I think was expecting another rock album. So at first everyone was like, "What is this? Which song do we even listen to?" It was just like, "Where do we start?" But I mean, the experience of doing that album was really amazing. We were locked in the studio for like months on end and trying different things and just really getting into the process, like not really with an agenda, just kind of trusting that we were going to be led on the right path and the outcome would be what we wanted. And even though it wasn't what people were expecting, I think it's something to behold in its own way,
Yeah,
kind of like the Blade Runner of their collection.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When
agreed.
it comes
That's
out, everyone's like, what is this? But over time it kind of shows its true colors.
Yeah.
well, I told my story for that one last time, but Transistor was the album, was the UPS picketing, the case of beer, and that album, and just playing it on loop for a whole UPS week of being on strike and all. In terms
That'll
of
get you through.
Transistor's dub and spacey kind of sounds, and they had, was there any gear changes or anything that technology that was new to you at the time that came because of that album, or
um that was a time when we were starting to use digital recording techniques, so we were able to edit the performances and just other things a little bit more easily. Some of the stuff we could do creatively that used to take forever, we could do more quickly, so we experimented a little bit more. The only other significant change on that record was, and I was not really sure why we did it, but we just did it, was we had this, typically studios are characterized by the drum sound that you can get when you put up a drum kit in some room mics and you play the drums. Each studio kind of has its signature sound in a way, and we were like, well, we're not going to fit in any molds, we're going to do our own thing. So we put our drums in this like isolation booth that I think was made to do vocals in, and it was super dry. And I mean, that's what the album sounds like. The drums are so dry, there's no room sound. And that gives the album a kind of a characteristic that stands out from the rest of their catalog and from the other music of the rock era was that album was just, the drums were very, very dry. But that lended itself to some of the songs on the album. And the dub stuff was so fun. I remember we did the vocal for Rub-a-Dub, and doing vocals was always this big thing. You're okay, get ready. We're gonna do a lot of takes and take notes, and we got to get the right, blah blah blah. And Nick came in, and I hit record, and the song played down, and he sang, and I was like, yeah, he's getting warmed up. All right, and I said, all right, well, where do you want to start? He's like, no, that was it. Like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, that was the one. he just sang the song in one try.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, I remember we were hanging out a lot during this time, and he was just talking about how the pressure was coming to do so many songs and write so many lyrics in such a short amount of time. So he was just probably like, I'm doing this once and we got to move on.
Well, I mean, the lyrics is, ooh, what else can I do? Ooh, what else can I do? What else are you going to do? I mean, it says it's right there. What else can I do? That's it. But it was refreshing, man, because it was just like, you can either keep singing that or you can just sing it once great and you're done.
Yeah. He had also given me mixtapes with all of the early versions that he had demoed, which ended up on the archive albums. But I had Rub-a-Dub, I had Stealing Happy Hours, I had a few other ones, but they didn't have any lyrics to it. It was just all instrumentals. So me and my friends would go around and just like freestyle rap to these old
Oh man.
So there's just
I hear that.
And I was on a tour a skate tour in Europe, and we had like 3 or 4 cassettes, and that's just like what we did the whole time there was drive around, do skate demos, listen to 311 demos, which they were like Nick Hexum demos back then, because I didn't know if they were going to be Nick or 311, and freestyle rap. The Stealing Happy Hour.
Was that before or after you bonked your knee?
Before.
I remember you always had this ice machine. You would come on the bus and put your thing on and turn on the little ice pumper machine that would circulate cold water through the thing. Yes. And I was like, God, he must have really messed up his knee. I thought you were just like, I hit my knee on a piece of wood. Like, you really messed that thing up.
Now that was the ACL replacement that I had. That was a pretty major surgery. Yeah. Rare ending surgery for me.
Well, I remember those mixtapes. We had so many mixtapes that we started running out of like numbers. I mean, I know numbers are endless, but I mean, so we're like, well, what was the number 7? And so we started making up these little symbols that represented the differences between the demos. And then we had so many symbols, we didn't even know what they meant either. So when I look back at the transistor tapes, there's like literally like 25 tapes with all these symbols, and nobody has any recollection of what they mean.
Right.
So who knows what you got? I'll bet you got some good stuff.
Well, my gold was the iPod that Nick gifted me, the first gen iPod.
Ooh, Firewire 5G.
Yeah, and I still have it to this day, but he gifted it to me, and he goes, just make sure you delete all the songs off of it. And because he had like demos and songs that no one's heard, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna delete those.
Totally will. Yeah, no, they're already deleted. I know
so
that trick.
I found like one of those hack apps that someone wrote that you could download the songs to your computer, and I sat on them for years, dude. And then when I was going to edit ETSD 3, I pulled up some of that music and I was listening to it, and I pulled a song out that it was a Tim demo that that they eventually ended up calling Voyager. And I don't know what the name of it was whenever I got it, but it was the very first music you hear in the whole thing.
It's nutty to think that there were actually outtakes on that album. There was more material that we didn't even use. That's what a creative burst, that was like a supernova. They were just like, I'm like, okay, recording. Okay, what's next? Like, oh, I got
So
this
for
one.
that,
Record.
yeah, that was for Transistor.
Yeah,
How many songs? I can't remember. Was it 30 or?
yeah.
Whoa, hold up, guys! I gotta make up more symbols. It's coming over here trying to come up with hieroglyphics and shit.
What are some of the what are some of the B-sides of that album that are great? Was Earth People
I don't
one?
think there are any great ones, or we would know what they are.
No,
Earth
Earth People,
People.
dude, bro. Don't talk
I mean,
trash
it's
about the
good.
Earth
It's good.
People.
I'm not talking trash, but there was one called Lemming that's like probably
Oh
no one's
yeah,
ever heard.
I mean,
No, we've heard them.
that's a
Writer's
big
Block
favorite.
Party.
Dum,
It,
dum,
oh
dum,
yeah,
Writers,
dum,
yeah, yeah,
dum,
yeah, yeah.
dum,
Writers
dum,
Block
dum,
Party.
dum, dum. Yep, they're on
That's all I
archive.
can remember.
There's a
I knew that.
essay track called Everything.
Blizza.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's in there somewhere.
Is it Blizza? Maybe Blizza too. Will the world?
Man, you guys are good.
We're
Dude,
Wow,
it's like
Max.
we're just
they
fans.
should just. I'm glad they put that stuff out, man. Especially Earth People, because I was sitting on that on a cassette tape for a long time,
You're like,
and
finally, I can admit I still have it.
I mean, like,
yeah, I'm like, I can't put this out because they're
Right.
gonna know, you know.
Right.
And so right before the archive, I put together a 311 video and a trip to Vegas, and I dropped it in there like 2 days before. And one person
Genius.
goes, "What was that song?" One person, I'm like, "You'll get it tomorrow."
yeah, you tried.
Inside info.
Yeah, dude, Transistor. Well, that was critically a failure. Like it got slammed in the critics.
Well, it was all because of the expectations, you know. People didn't know what to make of it. Like I said, it was Blade Runner. Harrison Ford is a big star in Star Wars, and he comes out with Blade Runner, and everyone's like, "What do we do with this?"
Right.
But I think, and you know, good for them for not trying to be, you know, just with the times or whatever. Just do something that you feel, and someone's going to catch on, you know.
and now that's a beloved album with the
Yeah.
fans. Like you go and ask a 311 fan what their favorite album is,
Yeah.
and I would say 3 out of 4 times they're gonna say Transistor.
It was a creative burst, man. Yeah, what happened after Transistor anyway? What I don't even remember what happened after that.
Well, 1998, you had Warped Tour in Australia.
Oh
And
yeah.
we heard a little bit
My
about this from
gosh.
Yeti. We heard a little bit about it from Yeti about
Man,
the
there were so many different adventures. That was when Chad like broke his wrist and Josh Freese had to play drums.
uh-huh.
I'll never forget the way Beautiful Disaster sounded when Josh Freese played it. I was like, this is either I'm used to weird or this is weird, but this is different. I liked it because it was just strange. But man, that whole experience was something else. We slept in tents across Australia. He probably told you. But man, one highlight or low light from that tour was that was almost the end of the band. Not many people, maybe you know about it already, but we were driving across the outback. We rented 2 RVs. Yeti was driving one RV and I was driving the other one. And we got separated. Yeti ended up, I don't even know where he was.
Oh,
It was nighttime and it was rainy and the roads weren't that good. And we weren't even really going that fast. And all of a sudden the RV just hydroplaned.
Oh
And,
no.
and I was so sleepy. I was driving and as it went sideways, I just kind of compensated with the steering wheel slightly. And then when it caught the dry road, my wheels were pointed directly down the highway. And that RV shook so hard back and forth. They were playing cards in the back, and everything flew out of the shelves, and everything was a mess, and no one said a word for like 2 hours. And
Just
if we,
adrenaline, probably.
oh man,
Just
if we would have rolled that thing, somebody wouldn't be with us today.
oh.
And I think that's why we didn't go back because we're like, if we can't have a proper vehicle, maybe we shouldn't go.
with the proper driver.
A proper driver. Who let this guy drive?
And Yeti mentioned the like Roo Ram cages on the front of them.
Yeah, and he got so mad. One time, I took a shortcut that he didn't know about. He didn't see me, and we got to the hotel like 4 hours before he did because he drove.
Oh,
Oh.
But I don't remember how it was going down, but
4
he tried to
hours.
catch me in his RV, and he was so mad he was yelling out the window, and he got so close to the bridge that he knocked the review mirror, the side mirror off of their RV.
Oh,
That's uh, that's not good driving.
Oh,
But
that tour sounded rogue, man, and it was
oh,
Warped Tour. Like Vans, they can afford better accommodations
ugh,
than
we
that.
got hosed. We slept in green tents, like with cots. I don't know why did we do that. We
well,
survived.
you survived, and then I guess you all took a little time from the road after that. Started production of the original Hive. Um,
Yeah, that's when they decided they wanted to do a studio, and I did a couple other, like I wanted to get a little more into recording at that point, so I kind of went off and did a bunch of studio work, and I was in the middle of something when they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go do a." I don't know if it was a tour for an album or something, but then I don't think I toured in '99, but then in 2000 they did a Sprite Liquid Mix tour with like Jay-Z or something, and they called me out of the blue, and they're like, "Dude, come do this." So I went out on that, and I was like, God, this times have really changed. Because Jay-Z would come out with like one microphone and like 30 people and no band. I was like,
No,
where's the music even coming from? I'm like, this isn't rock.
yeah.
So I took a little break from touring because I felt like anybody could just go up there with a mic and say they were
Uh,
a band. And I think that was probably during the Evolver era.
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
going
because
And
back going back to sound system. So the original Hive.
oh, right, sound system. Yeah. Okay, those were good times. They decided they were gonna, like I said, they had always been good with their budgets, and instead of just blowing it on like some fancy studio, they tried to stretch it out so they could have more time creating and recording it without the pressure.
yeah.
And so they made a decision they were going to kind of get their own real place where there was acoustics and they could unwind and everything. So we got this cool place in Burbank that had been like a '70s studio. It had a little basketball hoop in the back. And so we came in there with our little funny little, I think it was a Euphonics sound console. And they had Pro Tools back then. It was like Pro Tools BC, getting like Pro Tools 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. And digital recording had really taken over by then. We were still using recording on analog tapes for the drums, but once we got into some guitars and a lot of vocals, we were using Pro Tools. And that studio it had a lot of character. And oh, that's when Hugh Padgham got involved for a little bit on that record.
Mm.
Yeah. I started, this is when I worked with you guys in that for sound system in the studio. I was a runner. This is whenever I jumped on. This is probably whenever you're referencing the ice the um the ice bucket with the machine circulating ice water.
Yeah, it could be.
So
Yeah,
I
you
was there.
know the original Hive. Yeah,
So you guys had Yamaha O2Rs,
that's what it was. Yeah,
Hmm.
two of them, and I used to sit there and read the manual
yeah, me too.
and just to go, all right, I want to learn this. I want to learn how to record because like I was doing recording for myself, but that was a lot of video game playing.
A lot of James Bond.
Oh, I was the king of James Bond. I used to kill everybody.
No, that could be easily disputed.
controversial.
Dude,
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have that exact same claim.
well, let me tell you what really happened. I was the
Oh,
master in that game, and we would do like it would be like four people all against each other,
I
and
know.
I go, all right, guys, I'm the champion at this. I'm gonna fight all you guys,
I could see
all
it
three of you
being
guys
you
against me.
or Nut.
And they got offended. They were like, and I go, come at me. And I killed them, their whole team. They could not kill me.
Wow.
And I had this technique where I would sit by the shield, the armor, and I would just kill people, and I was really good, and I would just go get armor, and I was unkillable. So Nick finally
That's not
caught on to
fair.
that
He
technique,
B Love
and he
understood
started
map
doing it.
rotation before the rest of the guys did.
Yeah.
Just camping the
So
map
Nick
rotation.
finally caught on that technique, and he started doing it, and he got good. But we also played Kobe Bryant's courtside.
Oh, dude, I was Reggie Miller. I could make it from anywhere with Reggie Miller. I mean, I used to get people mad.
Those were some heated battles because we do 2v2.
Oh, yeah.
And Nick's team, Nick played the Sonics because they were #1 rated on that game that year. I think my team was the Houston Rockets, and that was Clyde Drexler. You had the Pacers. But everybody had their own team they always played.
Oh, yeah, of course you did. Yeah, I can't just go switching teams. But did you ever play any live games in the back? You remember the ball hoop in the back of that one?
Yeah, we used to go out there and play all the time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, one time we were working on Tim. We were doing a solo. I can't remember which song it was. It might have been Nut Symptom. And you guys were like, dude, we're gonna play a game. We need one more guy. I'm like, but I'm working with Tim. And I was like, wait a minute, this is the digital era. I'm like, hey Tim, I'm gonna set you up and on this loop record thing. And it's just gonna go through the solo. You can play whatever you want. And then it'll start over, and then you can play whatever you want. And it'll just keep recording. He's like, wow, cool. So I went out and played basketball. I remember that day because I got a nail in my shoe.
Oh no.
And finally I was like, man, I got a nail in my shoe. And I was like, oh my gosh, Tim's still in there. And we played basketball forever. And I went back inside and there was Tim still fucking rocking. And I was like, dude, are you all right? He's like, I think I got it. And so I pressed stop and I looked at the little Pro Tools counter and he had done 127 solos.
Wow.
No
Yeah,
way.
127.
How to even choose?
Yeah, then
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
And your job is to listen to them and find the best parts and put them all together.
Yeah, now I got to milk this. Why did I do this?
Oh man. So then 311, they hit the road again. They start playing some smaller shows with no openers. How did that feel again after the big explosion and then coming back down to some of that again? What was it? Just easier?
I actually thought, I hate to admit it, but I thought, you know what? We've probably peaked. And I might as well just get ready to kind of just watch it all slowly fade. But it just kept, it was solid, just kept staying solid. And I'm like, well, they're still good. The fans are still cool. I wonder how much longer we could do this. I didn't have any idea that I would be with you here doing this today. That was not even on the radar. I figured, well, I got a couple more years,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what year that was, but it was a long time ago.
99, 2000-ish. So.
Ish.
Strong all along.
So one thing about 2000 that really sticks out in fans' minds, it was because of Large Show Detail 2, was the Japan tour. When you guys went over to Japan.
Yeah.
And we have something to show you, actually. Hold on a minute. Pull it up here.
One quick thing I remember about Japan, two super fast things while you're pulling that up. I remember we played Large in the Margin. Or no, we played Freeze Time at this festival. And there's part of the song that goes, hey, bum, 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 bum. Well, nobody had ever done hey until that festival. And it was always just a pause. And so we're at this festival rocking, hey, and when the whole crowd yelled hey, it scared me so bad my headphones fell off.
Oh wow.
I had no idea it was coming. And I thought something bad happened. The first time I literally ducked. And then people started doing hey from that moment on. There was always a hey there.
Oh wow.
That's a Japanese tradition?
Wow.
That's where it started. That's where
Crazy.
the first time it ever happened. And then the other thing that I'll always remember, and I wish it could catch on, the concert was over. Yeah. And so, okay, nobody's leaving. what are they doing? And everyone just stayed and picked up all the trash and put it in the bins. And they didn't leave until all the trash was clean, and then they left. And I was just like,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like this place.
Yeah. That's something
Bro,
else.
I'm like so disgusted with humans sometimes.
What's wrong with us?
Dude, after the beach show in Half Moon Cay, when they played on the beach for that cruise, there was so much trash on the beach. And I was just standing there, and I love beaches, right? That's like my happy place. And I was just going, this is disgusting, man.
Yeah, I
I'm
took a
like,
picture of it. I was like, what is wrong with these people?
I'm surrounded by people that have like the like-mindedness of self, nature, appreciation, love for your environment. And this beach is garbage right now. I went up to I went to Cappy, 6-man Cappy, and I was going, you should like just go grab the mic and have everybody just pick up trash. And he goes, don't worry about it. We got people to clean that up. And I
Yeah,
was like,
probably got somebody a job.
they're not
Big
learning
rake.
anything. No.
But that
Dude, people,
Japan tour, I remember the first time we went to Japan, we were so jet lagged and we made a firm decision. The only way to cure jet lag is with sake. And we committed ourselves to that plan. And oh my gosh, it worked so great.
love me some sake, boy.
Me too.
We had this double-decker bus, and double-decker buses are cool if you hadn't ridden on a double-decker tour bus. Like the beds are upstairs with a little lounge, and then downstairs is like kitchen, and it's like a whole apartment.
Yeah.
And Tim and I got this idea that it would be real funny to stand in the back lounge and flash oncoming cars. And so we were all socked up. The Japanese people, they were just like, I mean, I don't know what they thought when they saw us, but we had a lot of fun.
These dumb Americans.
And
Just don't hydroplane it.
and poor Yeti, he had never tried sushi and he was scared of it. And we talked to him so many times, Yeti, we're in Japan. You're going to love it. This is where the real sushi is. So finally we went to a conveyor belt thing and he was sitting there nervous the whole time, waiting. He saw something. He grabbed it and he ate it. And it was terrible. And finally we got someone to translate. What was that he ate? It was raw chicken.
What?
Poor Yeti. Out of all the sushi he could have had for his first time. And Peanut ate McDonald's the whole time. After that, Peanut was like, I'm eating McDonald's, so I know what it is, and that's it.
I can sympathize with that, man. I've traveled enough places and just go, all right, I'm tired of experimenting with this food.
Yeah, we were dumb kids, so that was a good trip.
We are very curious about this picture here.
Wow, how did you guys get that picture?
I had it from
that was Peanut and I were somewhere having sushi or doing something, and they just had a little photo booth, like they have at the bowling alley or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, come take a picture with me. And I was like, I'm not taking a picture. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And that was the picture from the photo booth.
Wow. You look completely...
Yeah, I look like I'm in Limp Bizkit or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I was young and handsome. What can I say?
Nice.
That was just a weird photo booth picture that I haven't seen in a really long time.
Dude, I'm telling you, J2 Tone has got so much stuff. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm not clicking on another one of those things again. Where's the close button? There we go. Well, I hope you're not the one that somebody one time came on the bus with this was back when cameras were film cameras. And they were like, oh yeah, I'm having a great trip or whatever. And Yeti grabbed the camera. He's like, quick, take a picture of a bunch of weird stuff. And we never saw what was developed from that roll of film, but you probably have it on your hard drive somewhere.
No, I don't have that. I can't say that I do.
Oh, good.
But if you're out there, people.
Yeah.
Nah.
Come to the archive.
All right.
Who knows what was on that one?
Yeah. So moving into like 2001, Saint was back, and it lists you as a tech assistant for that record.
Yeah, that was. I remember that specifically. They wanted me to be involved, but I don't remember what I was. I was doing something else. But and I remember when he played me a song, I was like, God, I really want to hear some of the new stuff, and he played me Uncalm in his truck, and it was such a weird mix of styles. I was confused when it first came on, and then it just got better and better. But that was when Pro Tools was fully taken over, and Saint was like, "Man, I don't know about this crap. I hate this digital shit. Will you
Yeah.
Yeah.
come in here and get?" We recorded a bunch of stuff, and now I can't get it all in one place. And so I went in and just kind of assembled all of the songs into one final compilation so it could be mixed, and just kind of hung around and gave my opinion about things here and there. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Well, I had asked someone who, because I've been asking, I got a record player and I have the stereo system at home, and I started asking people which album that they loved how it was mixed, and I got a few responses, and From Chaos was some of them. They said phonically it's the greatest.
Dane is a great mixer, and on that album, he didn't have any distractions, and he had. I think that was actually the first record that they had their real console. So that was when they had their second hive. The first hive was just kind of a temporary deal, and they were like, we got to get a real place. And when they did, they got a real console, a Neve console, an AMEC console, and it's a one of only I think 8 left on the earth, and it has such a magical sound. And Saint was insistent on that board, and he got his money's worth. And like that was just him at his finest, kind of undistracted, um, engaged, and just doing what he does. I think the band typically they have a good bit of input on we need more this and a little bit more of that, and this needs to sound a little more like this or that. But at that point, they were just like, he knows what he's doing, just make it sound good. So that's usually what you get. Mixing is focus work and a lot of reflection. It's kind of something you do over time. You get away from it, you come back, get away, come back. And he had a good opportunity to just have a really good handle on it as an overview, the big picture of that record, and it sounds so good. Good job, Saint.
So just for like all the listeners and viewers, this Neve board is basically when you see footage of the studio now, this is the board you see. And
Where
let's
lamb
Over
go into
chop
there.
where
technicals a
lamb
little
chop
bit.
sits.
What's that?
Where
Lamb
lamb chop
chop.
sits.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So go into a little bit about just like the technicality of this board, what makes it so great, what makes it different, and how much do you remember how much it costs? I think it was such a huge amount.
It
I'm
was a
sure everyone's
lot.
curious.
Well, the board itself there was a sound designer at that time named Rupert Neve who made his own consoles, but then he started stepping away from making consoles because he could see that the future was kind of digital. And so what he did was he knew he was going to kind of stop making the analog consoles, and he decided that he was going to make something. He was going to make an artistic statement in audio, and he was such a well-respected person that AMEC said, listen, we'll build anything that you design if it's possible. So he really just dreamed up this circuitry the way it's designed and put together, and he achieved something great. I mean, and no one can really put their finger on what exactly it is that makes it sound so good. But like I said earlier, that he was inspired by it, and there's some type of magic formula about being inspired by your work. And when we did the Blue Stream there, we did some of the streams there during the downturn. And when I listen back to those, I mean, it's the same mics that we use on tour. It's the same everything, but they're just going through that console it just does something to the sound that can't easily be described. I wish I could describe it. It just sounds kapowy wowie. I mean, everything sounds more, better, yes, sir, good. And that was the last console that he made, And so AMEC produced it, and it's the Rupert Neve 9098i, and he incorporated some of the things that he knew would be appealing to the digital users. So that board can actually still, there are some convenient features of today's digital consoles that can't be replicated in that console, but uh, as far as like handling it can do anything. It can handle any project. It can do any routing, and it just, oh man, it just sounds so good. There's something about it. You can just take a microphone and put it in your UAD interface and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And then you can put your microphone through that board and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And you're like, "Wow, it really sounds like I'm big time here." So that's why it's still there. Everything we put through there sounds great. And a lot of people are like, "Why do you still have that old boat anchor?" And I can't explain it, but you just have to hear the albums, and they'll speak for themselves, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's analog, but it still has faders that are automated, right? That connect to
Yeah,
Pro Tools. How does that
yeah.
work?
Well, you can automate the faders and certain aspects of the sound, and that's something that isn't used as much anymore, but for its time was really advanced. So when I'm working the console during a live show, I know the songs, and I know, well, here comes this part and I'm going to have to turn Tim up, and here comes this part and I'm definitely going to have to turn Tim down. And you could automate that. There were mixes we had done earlier. I've done a lot of mixes where there were like three people sitting at the board, and you hit record over there and you say, "This is the record. Okay, get ready, do your move. When this thing comes, pull that down and push that up," and three people are waiting. And with the advent of automation, you could do those things and it would remember what you did. Then you could just hit play and like watch Lamb Chop move the faders. And I think Lamb Chop got a kick out of that. That's why he's still around. Wait, do you think we should? Yeah, let's take a little walk about. Do you think we should like sit in this massage chair for a minute?
Oh my God,
Ooh.
yes. Oh my God,
Yeah,
yes.
I
that's
would
what
be
I was
all
thinking.
up on that.
All right, see where we are now. Oh my gosh, that's not a bathroom. Oh, well, here we are.
Oh, look at this.
Take a tour.
What?
It's toilet
What is-
seats.
What is happening here? There's toilet seats.
Poker toilet seats. Money toilet
Oh
seats.
my gosh. Ooh, $2 bill, y'all. Ooh, don't sit on this one.
No.
Is it a pick your seat situation?
Yeah, this is like all money. I wonder what's going on here. Kind of like it.
Oh man, where's Jerry Buss? We got to ask questions.
They might be missing a toilet seat after this one.
You got to break one of those in.
Ah! Well, we got a hallway full of stars down there.
Nice.
Sorry, lady, but I gotta pee. Oh,
Who
here's
was that? Was
Lead
that
us,
Samantha
Paul.
Fox?
Lita Ford.
Lady Gaga. Here's Paul and Gary.
You ever see Gary Busey's character on Entourage? It's just so outlandish, dude.
I don't think so.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he had a character. Bob Saget was on there some. Few people. That was a great show.
Oh my gosh. I just
There we
rewatched
are.
it earlier this year.
I should do that.
What was it again?
Entourage, HBO show.
Man, I wish I had time to watch something like that. What's crack-a-lacking? Oh, oh boy. These guys act like we got up at 6:30. Come on, people. I missed a flight and slept in an airport. I'm still going.
Who was that?
The Holy Grail. Man, we've been working hard and fast. There's no sleep. Our lobby call was 6:30 today. Okay, mute your audio. I can do a good peanut. You ready? Well, where should we go next? You guys want to check out the stage?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? I mean, we're having
Thank
fun,
you.
right?
Sure.
Here's where all the magic happens. Ladies and gentlemen, the Forum.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah. The Forum.
Dude, I saw Beastie Boys 311 there one year. New Year's.
Seen one hockey game there.
They have hockey here? It's weird because it looks small now, kind of.
We're kind of losing you, Scotch.
Oh, no. Well, hold on. Let me make one more stab at it. Here's where the magic really happens.
Yeah.
Nice.
There we go.
Very cool.
Yeah. See, I was all cushy earlier back there in the basking in the glow of the limelight dressing room. Now we're here in the real world. Hi. 1, 2, 2,
There's
2. Can you guys hear me or what?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
1, 4. Hey, 1, 2. Hey, 1,
Well,
2. Yeah.
Stop all that noise. I'm trying to do an interview here.
Hey,
They're not listening.
1, 2. French fries.
We better get out of here before we get in trouble.
Next time on 311 Odyssey, take a ride back in time to the early 90s in 311's hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. Join B-Love as he takes a tour of Rainbow Studios and also hear stories of the early days from longtime 311 friends Clint Thomas.
What really kind of got 311 going, I think, was it was genius too.
And Casey Kinnan.
For me, I'd have to go back to those Ranch Bowl days because they just owned that room.